Hello, Zoomers. Can you hear me? Good morning, Zoomers. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Yeah, you can hear me. Great, great. Morning. Morning, Roomers. Morning, Zoomers. I hope you're all well. Stand up, sit or play. By the way, the latest fashion in yoga will be the tank top. I shall make it so. It's kind of old man. Our next step will be slippers. That's my next step down from Lululemon. Take a wide stride, generous stride. Hands on the hips, please. Breathing through the nose. 2 or 3 or 4 deep breaths, tuning in on the pelvic floor. So one way to tune in on the pelvic floor is to move the body to increase your sensitivity, to sensitize to the pelvic floor. Jaw, eyes, brain soft. Raise the arms. There's a mat there you could have, or a mat there. Yeah. Back toes in, front foot and leg out. Uttita Trikonasana. Inhale, exhale. We come into the pose. Good job. Okay. I'm going to make it really short because I've got some classroom management to do. Come up, do the other side. Just warming you up anyhow. So turn the feet the other way first. Back toes in, front foot and leg out. You might have to move. I think I might move the camera so that more, there's a space there. You can go, yeah. But I think we're still going to get one. Inhale, come up. Turn the feet to face forwards. I'm just going to move the camera so that it doesn't take any of you in, but it does allow room for more humans to come in. Okay, so, oh, it's awkward. Sorry, Zoomers. They just, so they're all flipped over. Let's just see, you can still see me. Yeah. There we go. Okay, same thing again, same pose. Uttita Trikonasana. We can get someone in there. So you go. So we get one if we need. There's more room for. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, if you put one down for Francis as well. Maybe come a little bit further forwards. You still won't be in camera if you come tiny bit further forwards. Great. Yeah. You're not in shot there unless you want to be. Yeah. Okay, same pose. Back toes in, front foot and leg out. Raise the arms. So back toes in, front foot. We're going to more detail in a minute. Just check your back toes have turned in. Inhale, exhale. Trikonasana. I could do this all day, this pose. I'd have to have breaks for, a wee, whatever, but careful. Breathe easy, jaw soft. Enjoy the pose a bit if you want. Just a bit more than that though. Yeah, like that. Or some people don't like enjoying, so you can, if you want, you can furrow the brow. That's a good choice. That's good, Jesse. We're serious. Inhale, come up. Hands on the hips. Of course, the Patanjala Yoga Shastra tells us that Prakriti is for enjoyment and liberation. So body's Prakriti, we'll talk about that in a minute. Back toes in, front foot and leg out, turning on the ball of the foot, finishing off the turn on the heel. Raise the arms. Make sure your back toes have turned in. We've got a space in the middle for you, Francis, where you belong, right in the center, in the heart. Inhale, exhale. Jaw soft, eyes soft, brain soft, throat soft. Take a few deep breaths. So breath is super important. Everyone knows that. It's particularly important in yoga. Okay, inhale, come up. Hands on the hips. We're going to do it again. I'm enjoying your Grubs Burgers t-shirt. I used to always go to Grubs Burgers back in the day. I used to get like the Malaysian vegetarian. That was really good with peanut butter. And the Hawaiian, which is a bit naughty because it's got pineapple. You shouldn't really, but I love it. Back toes in, front foot and leg out. Brighton institution, isn't it? Grubs Burgers. Heel to arch, raise the arms. Inhale, exhale. It's the same pose again. Why not? Trikonasana done 3 times. It makes sense. Sanskrit word is tree is 3. Take deep breaths. Enjoy if you want. Jaw soft. So when I say enjoy, bhoga in Sanskrit, bhoga, what does that mean, to enjoy this moment for us, like just right now? For most of us, I think it probably means taking some pressure off. So some of you might think, can I take my arm down? You can take your arm down if you want, or could I take it over if you want, if it's enjoyable? Or can I wiggle my fingers? Yeah. It is through the experience of Prakriti, and I will explain what Prakriti means if you don't know it in a minute, that liberation occurs according to the Patanjali Yoga Shastra. Okay, inhale, come on up. Hands on the hips. Deep breaths, plural. Find the pelvic floor. Stand like a superhero. Superheroes have emblems on their chests that they have spent good money getting stitched on, and they want people to see their emblems. So make sure you lift your emblem up, whatever it says. Mine's got a YM on it. Yoga man. Back toes in, front leg out. Raise the arms. Inhale, exhale. I must get out more. Note to self. Breathe through the nose if you want. So enjoyment is for the liberation of the Purusha. I'm just quoting from Patanjali, but also the Sankhya Karika. And enjoyment and experience of Prakriti. Prakriti is a Sanskrit word, prakrita, which comes from the same root as procreate. So it means everything that is created or manifested or made. Everything that's made. To make something, you have to have 2 or more ingredients. So everything, every thought, every physical sensation in this pose is Prakriti. Where 1 or 2, 3 or 4 or 5 things come together to make something, like a thought or a physical sensation. So we should enjoy that because it stops us clinging. And it is the clinging or the entanglement that causes us mental confusion, according to yoga. So enjoy. Inhale, come on up. Hands to hips, take deep breaths, 2, 3, 4 or more. Keep limber. Sometimes it's nice to bend the knees, sometimes it's nice to move the pelvis. So, what's nice is not overthinking. I like Saturday morning yoga a lot because it's Saturday. There you go. Saturday indicates something to me, weekend. And weekend, although of course people do work on the weekend, here I am, this is work actually, this is my job. Weekend indicates sort of something a bit more spacious, like the word holiday indicates something, you don't have to be somebody. So weekend's like a mini holiday. So that attitude's helpful. Bring your fingers to your hip joints. So this is if you were at the Rocky Horror Picture Show and someone said, put your hands on your hips, you'd do that. If they said, bend your knees in tight, you'd do all that, but you're not going to do that. But hands on the hips, actually we want lower hip joints. Yeah, you got it. So when you move your pelvis, you can feel that's where you're moving from. The articulation point is there. Now raise our arms up from the hip joints. So that takes intention. You have to intend to raise up from the hip joints. And for me, that takes tuning in. I have to tune in on my experience as it is. Lightly tone your tummy, like it's sort of repetitive combing of the tummy. Turn your back toes in, front foot, leg and leg out. Whole body's turning around that way. Whole body, whole body, whole body. Walk your front foot further across the width of the mat, away from this side of the room. Keep going. Further, 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 further. Stop. Okay, lift the back heel up. Turn it towards this side. Lift it up, turn it this way. And then bring it down once it's turned. Down it comes. Good. Do it one more time with the back heel. Maybe you can square up a bit more. Lift it, turn it towards this side of the room, and then bring it down. So you've squared up, really squared up. Good. Have your hands apart, but palms facing in to each other. Stretch your arms higher than that. Higher than that. Higher than that. Great. Tone the tummy. Inhale. Exhale, bend your front knee and feel into the groin of the back leg. So what is the groin? The groin is the insertion point of the adductors and also for some of the hip flexors. So we have the inner groin where the adductors insert, or muscles like the psoas as well. And then we have the front groin across which the quadriceps, or particularly the rectus femoris, stretches. So stretching the inner groin and the front groin of the back leg means movement, the kind of movement that you can feel into the body, your body as it is now. So, this isn't about some imaginary, perfect, whatever. It's this body now and a conversation based on play. Some people find it useful to go lighter on the back foot. I sometimes just only have the ball of the foot on the big toe side on the floor, and every other part of my back foot temporarily is lifted. And in that lift, I can turn. I can encourage the inner groin to come around multiple times. So I might lift my back heel, maybe I bring it down again, but in the lifting, I'm turning. Inhale, come on up on the inhale. Turn back to the front, take a big circle, hands to your hips, take a deep breath that I can hear. Take a few deep breaths. Once the breath is moving, it's like a big spoon is stirring the pot, as it were. And if you stir the pot, you stir out the lumps. And what are the lumps? They're neuroses that you and I share. Raise your arms up. Breathe through your nose. So, just put your hands up if you're neurotic sometimes. Yeah, thought so. Okay, back toes in front foot. Let out, whole body turns. Good. So, and then walk your front foot further across the width of the mat so you can square up. And lift the back heel, externally rotate it, and then bring it down again. So you want to turn as much as you can, fiber by fiber. The Buddha, this is a Buddhist center, obviously. There's a great big stonking Buddha picture up there. I think it's a bit of a clue. The Buddha said in the Dhammapada, which is a great text, if you get the right translation of it, great text. He says, a jug fills drip by drip or drop by drop. In other words, you can apply that to anything, including this. Lots of little movements will make a big difference. You'll be able to turn much further if you do it in a succession of multiple little movements. Inhale, raise up from your hip joints to your fingertips. Exhale, bend your front knee. Feel the stretch in the inner groin of the back leg. The inner groin of the back leg. You might, as I do, find it useful to raise the heel intermittently and to turn, to tease those tissues of the inner groin, those muscle tissues. We know muscles respond to how we feel. If we're feeling happy, the muscles move a certain way. If we feel light, if we feel confident, if we feel empowered, if we feel, we're in an atmosphere of friendliness, the muscles move a certain way. So obviously, address attitude, look for happiness. It's quite easy in the Brighton Buddhist Centre because it's purdy. It's really purdy in the Buddhist Centre. So that's uplifting. Inhale, come up on the inhalation. Turn back to the front, big circle. Good job. Hands on the hips. Deep, honest breaths. Maybe shake out the pelvis a little bit and feel for the pelvic floor. So what is the pelvic floor? A series of four main muscles, iliococcygeus, pubiococcygeus, pubirectalis, and coccygeus. You don't need to remember that, but I will test you at the end. And they are strung between the pubic bone and the tailbone. And everyone has them, and you can feel them, right? If you've got them, you can feel them. But you have to tune into them rather than the idea of them. So the reality of anything is not the same as the idea of that thing. Like a map is not the same thing as the territory. So we're tuning into the territory. So feels for the pelvic floor. You might conceptualize it, but that's not it yet. You've got to feel into it, and hence movements of the pelvis can help us tune in. Hands on the hips, turning the back toes in, front foot, leg out, whole body turns that way again. In exactly the same way, but it won't be the same pose. We're going to move the front foot further across the width of the mat. Keep going until you're about hip width across the mat. Lift the back heel when you're ready and turn it out, helping you to turn your thigh in, trying to fall off the world. Lightly tone the tummy. What does that mean, that phrase, lightly tone the tummy? If you imagine your tummy drawing in and up in reiterative waves, as if someone were brushing it or combing it, in the same way that some people's hair, if combed, the fibers will go eventually in the same direction as each other, some people's hair. Similarly, through repetition, the fibers will agree to the action over time. So we're not making the body do anything. We're suggesting with reiterative waves in and up on the tummy. Can you feel? Don't hold your breath, because that means you're thinking about it rather than feeling it. This is a feeling-centered practice. Inhale, lift from the inner groin of the back leg. Exhale, hinge forwards. Both legs are straight. Hinge forwards from your hips. Now, you can bend your knee if you need to, because we're going to touch the floor with our fingers. So for many of us, bending the knee is a far better option than breaking the back, which is the other option. So breathe easy. You might think, yeah, no, breaking the back, no, not for me. I'll bend my knee. Hands either side of your foot, either side, one to one side, one to the other. Great, good job. Breathe through your nose if you can, because it hydrates, it filters, and it warms the air, and it slows the incoming air as well. Deep breaths, jaw soft, brain soft. The gluteus maximus is one of the only muscles that people who don't know anatomy know, because it's the bum and because bums are funny. So you know the gluteus maximus on the back leg. Don't grip it. Let it go. Now, if you don't know how to let it go, it's like, I don't know how. Bend your back knee. Just try bending your back. Do it. That's it. Bend your back knee. And then you'll feel, oh, yeah, actually things do feel a bit calmer there. Feel how that calmness is in the mind as well as the body. Okay, great job. Come up calmly, hinging from the hip joints. Turn back to the front, hands on the hips, breathing through the nose. Jaw soft, eyes soft, brain soft. Back toes in, front foot and leg. Whole body turns. Don't forget to walk the front foot further across the width of the mat so that you can square up. It allows space for your pelvis. And don't forget to turn the back heel as well. Hands on the hips, reiterative tone in the tummy. We think in terms of currents, like a river has a current. The current in a river will move the water, it will move leaves on the water, it will move fish in the water, it will move ducks on the water, etc., canoers on the water. Similarly, and current in the tummy will move muscle fibers, muscle tendons, visceral fascia. So reiterate this tone in the tummy, in and up, as if you can even do, I find it useful to stroke with the fingers sometimes, just to kind of get that feeling. It goes in and up, in and up. It's not insistent, but gradually, like a current on a river, will gradually bring everything along with it over time. Similarly, the in and up, the in and up, the in and up will do that. Keep that going. Inhale, stretch the inner groin of the back leg. Up you go with the stretch. Exhale, hinge forwards. Feel the back leg releasing behind you. Absolutely bend the knee to bring the hands to the floor. Some people, you might, if you find that, oh yeah, I do need to bend the knee because my back feels bad otherwise, you might think, well, it's not fair. Some people aren't bending the knee. It's not fair. But some people have got really long arms and really short legs. And that's just all. If you've got really short legs and really long arms, it's really easy to reach the floor, isn't it? So, careful what you wish for. Take a few deep breaths, jaw soft, eyes soft. Release the gluteus maximus on the back leg. So try bending the knee. Try bending the knee. And if you feel a release it feels like your brain's under less pressure, then you're starting to know yoga, which is the understanding that everything's interdependent with everything else as a direct experience, because we all understand that. We all know everything's interdependent. Many of us are reading books about how, mushrooms are all interdependent with each other through the fibers underground, and trees are all interdependent with each. We know, we're reading these books, they're brilliant. But yogis want a bit more. They want to feel it. They want to know it directly. So your breath is interdependent with your body, because your breath will tighten when your body tightens and release when your breath releases, and vice versa. Your body's tight, take a deeper breath, let go with the breath. You'll see interdependence for yourself. Inhale calmly, don't rush, come on up. Well done, turn back to the front. Hands on the hips. Take 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 deep breaths. Walk your feet towards each other. Now you need a belt or a strap. If you haven't got a belt or a strap, I think there's a basket with belts somewhere around the room. I'll see if I can locate it. At home, of course, you should be able to find a tie or a belt. Oh, great. A few in there. Anyone beltless? Beltless baskets? 2 tuck in. Good. So at home you can use, perhaps you've got a yoga belt or whatever, a tie, dressing gown belt. Don't forget to put it back on your dressing gown so the Amazon delivery man doesn't get a shock. Let's do it. Don't have to be dynamic like that, but I quite like to. Don't we? Some of us like to. It's up to you. And then most of us need to bridge the gap between the hands with the belt. Most of us, and that's useful. The aim of this pose is not to catch your hands behind your back. That's not in any yoga text. It doesn't say in any yoga text, a great yogin can catch their hands behind their back. No, it doesn't say it. Yoga teaches us interdependence as an experience, direct experience. So here, how are we learning that? Through the stretch we're feeling in the trapezius muscle and others, on the lower arm, and the resistance that shows up as tightness, tension, mental resistance, respiratory resistance, that is an indicator of independence, a sort of attitude where everything's I'm separate from everything, my body's separate to my brain, my breath is separate to my emotions, like that. That's the view that causes tension and doubt. And it comes from a fundamental view, I, as a separate unit, I exist as a separate unit, is me, I'm a separate unit. It's a very painful experience that we all experience at times. So when you feel the stretch, which I know you do, that stretch is resistance. It's 2 forces trying to occupy the body, the force of the shape of the posture and the force of habit, fundamentally underpinned by the idea of self and the tension that causes. Eventually, one of those 2 things has to release, the habit or the posture. But because we're in a yoga class, I think it helps us to stay longer than we would at home. If we were at home, the habit would find a way to get us out of this. It would say, quickly check your emails, or, that shelf over there looks like it's a bit dusty, better dust that now, or whatever. But in a class, there's a mudra, an energetic, positive limitation. Take a few more deep breaths. Breath is super important, we know. And then slow and easy release when you're ready. Such a wonderful practice to do regularly. Just stand with your feet close and your arms by your sides and move if you want before we take the second side. Take a few deep breaths. I'd love to hear us all, beginning to really, drop some of our baggage. Obviously, most yoga traditions, Buddhism, Jainism, Vaishnavism, Shaivism, Suryaism, all of these different yoga traditions all posit the idea of karma. You've heard of karma, it's part of yoga. In Jainism, they think of karma as sticky particles, that if you get enough of them stuck, you get really heavy, man, right? Really heavy. So the idea in Jainism is to release these, they're physical karmic particles. I think it's quite a useful metaphor. Shouldn't perhaps mention too much about Jainism, as historically Jainism and Buddhism have been a little bit in rivalry. Sorry. Other arm up, and then the other one up behind you. You might, if you went to India and you went to a Jain temple, you might not know that it isn't a Buddhist temple. You might think it is a Buddhist temple. Because Mahavira and his contemporaries often were sometimes called Buddhas for a start, or Tirthankaras, which Buddhas are sometimes called as well. Mahavira is also portrayed with long earlobes, with a Bodic protuberance on the head, just like the Buddha. The main difference, so you can recognize a Buddha from a Jain in the iconography, is that Jains are nearly always in iconography, but not always, but nearly always, naked, butt naked, and Buddhas are not. Although bodhisattvas sometimes are. So, and yet another thing is the mark on the chest. Buddhist iconography usually has, or often has, a swastika, which I know if you don't know, you might think, what the hell? You know, are Buddhists, Buddha's Nazis? You know, of course not. It existed way before. And swastika means su plus astika means su means good. Astika means it is. So actually, it was a symbol that was originally Buddhist. Anyway, I'm telling you all these stories so that your mind is pleasantly distracted from the fact that your trapezius is being stretched, and it keeps you there a little longer. So now let's breathe into it. Let's go further and breathe into it. So we say yes with our breath in yoga, in life as well. We say yes or no with our breath, don't we? Saying yes means we're letting go of habituation, which, if you trace it right back to its source, goes back to a belief, a religion, you could almost say, in a deity that we call me, myself, and I. Most of us are part of a religion that worships a made-up deity called me, myself, and I. So, and that, because it's made up and it's in resistance to reality, it causes a lot of tension. So if you release the tension, you release that dogma as well. Okay, release your arms. Big stretch, ain't it? Wiggle out if you want to. So wiggle out if you want to. Take a few breaths. Let's just stand for a second in Tadasana. So feet spread, feet close. If you can touch your feet, great. If they don't touch, if your thighs meet before your feet, then don't touch your feet, but just go close and spread your toes as well as you can. I like repetition. I often like to reflect because it's such a funny thing, the idea of self and the idea of time. So on the level of ideas, I'm a person called Jim Tarrant, and I've been practicing yoga apparently for 33 years, and that's an idea. But the reality is it doesn't feel like that. It feels like today's the first day. Right? And ever since I've been practicing yoga for 33 years, I've been extending my little toes out, and I haven't given up on it, right? I do it every time I practice. I do it again and again. I do it like somebody who's just, discovered that I've got toes for the first time. That's how we should be with the little toes. Why? Because the little toe drawing in is a sign of the gripping, grasping, grabbing that underpins, or that is an expression of, our fundamental delusion that there is a separate, fixed, autonomous person that can be contained within a box of ideas, which, causes us problems. So if you extend your little toes, if you can solve that riddle, how do I even feel my little toes? That's a riddle, isn't it? Right? Don't they feel like there's someone else's? Your little toes, do they do anything you ask them to do? Calmness conditions connection. Go really calm. Stretch your arms out like you're going to hug a tree. Okay. Now, I think this is the best time of year to hug trees, by the way. I intend to hug at least one this weekend. And that's because we, Homo sapiens, don't quite feel that spring is coming. We're like, oh, winter. But trees know it's coming. They feel it. Sap is already rising in the tree. If you hug a tree, you'll get some of that vibe into you, I promise. And if you don't, I'll give you £5 in cash next week. So either way, you win. Top arm over the top of the bottom arm, just hug, and then repeat. As many times as you like. This muscle is called the deltoid, and it gets a good stretch. I have to move my microphone. Okay, so just keep going. And breathe, and don't hold your breath, relax. Imagine you were a really relaxed person. Imagine you're like, those people that are really relaxed. You met those people. Imagine you were one of them. Like, oh yeah. Well, I'm one of those relaxed people. Eventually, when you feel ready, there'll feel a point where you feel like, oh yeah, I think maybe I'm have a go at wrapping the arms around. Now, when we first practice this, it's uncommon for us to bring the hands together like this. They sometimes, like, the back of the hands might come together, you might just feel that grab hold like that. But let's remember again the great advice of Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, when he said, a jug fills drip by drip. In other words, in this practice, you make loads and lots of little movements. You'll make an enormous amount of progress without even noticing it. Loads of little movements. So the little movements could be in this bit, right? The little movements could be in this bit, right? Maybe your hands are like this, but you take lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of little movements. We all know the hare and the tortoise story. Bend your ankles, knees, and hips. I'm listening out for cracking. I quite enjoy cracking. Let's go. Cracking ankles, cracking knees. A normal phenomena. Breathe through your nose. Good job. Okay. Come up side more cracking. And then slowly release. Take a breath or 5. Letting your breath happen is opening up the tight fist of grasping. I'm quoting from a poem. The poem says, trying to grasp the ungraspable, you exhaust yourself in vain. What is the ungraspable? Self. Trying to grasp the ungraspable. I'm like this, aren't I? I'm like that, aren't I? Am I like this? Am I like... You exhaust yourself in vain. Relax the tight fist of grasping and boundless infinity is revealed, says the poem. Raise your arms. Lift your chest, hug a tree in your minds. And then do it in real life this weekend as well. Make sure there's no dog peeing underneath the tree when you do it. Stretch, you can do anything you like. Sometimes it's nice to kind of wiggle, or whatever, or wag your tail. Or what, to keep loose, actually, that's all. Fingers moving. We know the nerves that come into the fingers start in the upper back. So moving your fingers moves the upper back. Everything is interdependent with everything else. That's what we're learning as a direct experience that we can feel. Same thing when ready. One arm over the top of the other. I find I want to do 3, 4, or 5 of them. And what that does is, firstly, it makes more hydration come into the myofascia. More fluid flows through the muscle fascia. Muscle fascia is the basic material that makes up a muscle. If you combine that with muscle cells, you get muscles. And the other thing it does is kind of tell my body that I'm coming. So whatever the body's holding, it already begins to let go of before I even get there, if you see what I mean. When you feel, or your body feels ready, wrap round. The further your arms cross over from the get-go, the easier it is, or the more likely it is for the hands to be able to come towards each other. So any of those stations, the wrapping round bit, the bit where the arms are crossing over, and then repetition. Patanjali says, I remember it's 112 or 116 in the Yoga Sutra, one of those two, Abhyasa Vairagya Brahmam Nirodham, Sanskrit, more on Sanskrit on request. Sanskrit has a lot in common with German, French, Spanish, Icelandic, Slavic, etc. And it means abhyasa, repeat, do it again and again, keep doing it. Vairagya, easiness, relaxed. Okay, bend your ankles, knees and hips. Breathe through your mouth. So you can feel stretches in a variety of places. The calcaneus tendon that extends from the calf muscles to the heel bones. You can feel stretching across the back, into the pelvis. Keep breathing into it. Super. Okay, come up, calm. And release nice and easy. Take a breath or two. Anything you want in terms of movement. It's not, in fact, it goes beyond what you want. It's just let the body do it. Like, just let it be in a weekend mode. Rather than, oh, I should try and understand yoga. I should just forget it. It's the weekend. Understand yoga during the week. The weekend, just let it pick. Good. So next we're going to hold the elbows or hands into prayer behind the back. So this is holding the elbows. This works very, very well. Keeps the shoulders back. Bit more tricky is bringing the hands up the back. That's another choice. Now, again, I do it little by little, working my fingers against the spinous processes, they're called. It's where the back sticks out like the back of a stegosaurus. And you can see that by working little by little, fiber by fiber, I'm making more progress. So think of that. We're working little by little. Step your feet apart generously. Breathe through your nose. Eyes soft, brain soft. So yoga isn't stretching or strengthening or feeling a strong experience. It's stretching, strengthening, or feeling a strong experience and giving to it. That's what yoga is. So it's 2 stepping stones to cross the river. So you can feel a stretch on your chest, I presume, or across your shoulders, right? That's not yoga yet, not yet. It becomes yoga when you start, giving to it, and you give in life through your breath. Only then are you crossing over from an experience of independence to an experience of interdependence. And it is that, as we've been exploring, that constitutes what yoga is, an experience of the interdependent reality, an experience of it. Back toes in, front foot and leg out, whole body's turning round. You know the way to go. We've done it a couple of times. Walk the front foot further across the width of the mat. You remember that from before? Up to hip width. Lift the back heel up. Externally rotate it towards the front of the room and descend it again. Maybe do it more than once if it helps you to square up. Stretch from the inner groin of the back leg up by lifting your chest up on an inhale. Inhale, lift the groin. Lift your chest. Exhale, extend forwards. Hinge from the hips. Remember when we put our hands to the floor, we're not going to put the hands to the floor, but we're doing the same action with the legs. The back heel can come down again if it's up. Breathe through your nose. Let the back leg feel like it almost escapes behind you. And that escaping feeling is connected with a releasing forwards of the spine. So the leg feels like it escapes and the body feels like it releases forwards. And they're connected, interconnected, interdependent. Your breath is also interdependent with the experience. And watch out for that gluteus maximus, that muscle we all know on the back leg. We explored it earlier, how we want to make sure it's not gripping. We even bent the back knee. If that helps again, you could do it now. Leading with the breastbone, bottom of the breastbone, come up on the inhalation. Turn back to the front. Level your feet. Keep your hands in position. Unless you're desperate to take them out, but otherwise take a few deep breaths. Through the nose, back toes in, front foot and leg out, whole body turns the other way. Don't forget to walk that front foot across the width of the mat. You want to square up to the wall ahead of you. We're squaring up to what I think is the telesales centre, the opposite building or the opposite side of the road. It's been a long since rivalry between the Buddhist Centre and the telesales centre. Sometimes they throw telephones over, we throw Buddhas back. It's quite nasty. Anyway, inhale, lift the inner groin of the back leg. Exhale, extend forwards, feel the back leg releasing, as if you're standing in a strong, fast-flowing stream and it were pulling the leg back in a way that's effortless. It's relative to your extension forwards, the pulling or the releasing of the back leg, as if you're standing in the current, a strong flowing current of a brook or a stream, and it just kept pulling your leg back. And that pulling was effortless because it's the current of the stream that's pulling it back, not you as a person. Everything becomes effortless when there is no one to make the effort. Ask a runner, someone who's a professional runner, they'll say, oh, they get into a flow.
It's like the body's running itself. Or a musician, they might play the piano or guitar for half an hour or an hour, and then suddenly they're in flow. And they don't even, it's like it's beyond themselves. Compliment a musician for writing a song and they're like, well, yeah, it's good, isn't it? Because they're hearing it like you're hearing it. Similarly in the pose. Inhale, come on up. Good job, well done. Turn back to the front, don't turn back to front. And walk your feet slowly. I bet you're desperate to release the arms. Desperate. Oh, we've done it already. Release them slow. Oh, my arms. And then take a few deep breaths. I'm just, helping you to express anything you might want to express. I'll do it. You can do it through my mouth. My arms. So keep loose. Wiggle if you want to. We're going to turn. Let's all turn this way. Yeah, that's it. Walk towards the end of your mat, but not right at the end. About the length of your foot. About the length of your foot away from the end of the mat. About the length of your foot. So I don't know what size foot you have. About that. It's only approximate. It doesn't have to be exact. And then bring your feet together. Bring your feet together. Or as close as they're comfortable to be. Spread your toes out. Have a look at your toes. Have a look. There they are. High toes. They look like they're miles away, don't they? Lift and land them lots of times. Go ahead. Your little toe, as I've described to some of you before, is like Piglet from Winnie the Pooh. Right? You know the character Piglet. The character Piglet is timid, very nervous indeed. And your little toe is very nervous indeed. So if you want it not to scurry underneath the others, as you lift and land your feet, send signals of calmness, reassurance, love. And in this way, your little toe will calm down and will become available. It will come online. So this is what I call the 3 C's of yoga: calmness, conditions, connection. What is the factor that makes connection happen? Calmness. Raise your arms up, but still feel your toes. Raise your arms up, still feel your toes. Tone your tummy up. So that means reiterative waves. You can move your arms any way that you want. Some people like to wave them around. Some people like to do a bit of the Kermit the Frog thing from the beginning of the Muppet Show. And he's, this is the Muppet Show at the beginning. You've seen that, right? Okay, inhale, stretch up. Exhale, fold down over the top of the front thighs, hinge from the hip joints, hands flat to the floor, which means bending the knees for probably 85% of people in the room, bending the knees. Or breaking the spine, not a good option. Bend it, hands flat on the floor, flat. So that means bend your knees, right, for most of us. Completely flat, not fingertips, but flat. So bend your knees more if you need to. Yeah, you go. Step back to the back of the mat. And your feet are roughly hip width apart. They can be wider. And just look forwards at your hands. Pad them deeper into connection with the yoga mat. So pad them like a cat pads their paws. And they pad their paws, not, as you might think, to ruin your new trousers and furniture, but instead to arrive. So you should pad your paws to mesh the molecules of your palms into the molecules of the mat. So repeatedly do that. Mesh your hands. Have the intention. You can even imagine that the molecules of your hands are merging with the molecules of the mat. And there's absolutely no reason why they shouldn't. Some people find it useful to limber the legs up, to bend the knees quite a few times, to bend and extend. Some people find it useful to move the pelvis side to side. We know we're bringing a greater level of hydration in doing both of these things. For people who are more used to this pose, you could consider opening the armpits. So that means where the armpits might feel like they're a little curved, we straighten them. Yeah? We extend them. So we make them more of a straight line, starting with the inner armpit and then following what's going on with the inner armpit with the outer armpit. Right. Okay, well done, everyone. We're going to come down to hands and knees now. And then take a breath there. You might wag your tail. Sometimes wagging the tail intimates looseness, lightness, relaxation. So wag your tail if you want to. I find it useful. And of course, it's there to intimate, to point, to signal to our nervous systems, to ourselves, our attitude. Attitude is bhavana. Super important part of yoga. So I'm going to say it again. Attitude is a super important part of yoga. Essential part of traditional yoga. So if you move in a way that shows that our attitude is relaxed and loose, then your breath will open up. And as the breath opens, the body opens. And as the body opens, the mind opens. This is a state known as vahi, flow. Keep breathing freely. Keep in this relationship of interdependent flow. Take the arm that's furthest away from me while you still breathe freely and feed it towards me. Just as I'm feeding mine towards you, you're feeding yours towards the wall behind me, towards those bodhisattvas or Buddha. Palm up, the other arm, good job. The other arm extends out to fingertips. Lovely. Breathing through your nose. And the muscle, one of the muscles that's being stretched is the deltoid that caps the shoulder. But it also twists the three channels that yogis imagine run through the body. They project the idea, they map the idea of channels on the body. And there are three principal channels, and then hundreds of others. Some people say, some texts say there are 72,000 channels, but some scholars say that that's a mistake to do with page numbers and blah, blah, blah. But what was meant to be written was thousands, not 72,000, because no one's counted, one energy channel, two, and it's just like the whole body's full of them. The three principal ones are the central one and two either side. Ida, Pingala, the ones on either side, and the Sushumna in the middle. So you feel those channels kind of rolling around each other. The outer channels rolling around the central. Okay, bring your arm back, push into the floor. Back to hands and knees, catch your breath. Jaw soft, perhaps there's some wagging of the tail. You probably guessed that the next part of the class is doing the same thing the other way. So when you're ready to do the same thing the other way, the other arm goes underneath, this time away from this side of the room. You got it? You got it. Palm facing up. That should be the other way. So some of you doing the other way, but it's okay. As long as you're doing the other side of the body to the side you did before, then I don't mind. I think it's useful to be on the fingertips of the extended arm, unless, there's some arthritis in the fingers or something like that. But otherwise, it's useful because I think it helps to open up the front of the body, the anterior spine. Take deep breaths and imagine three channels. Take deep breaths and imagine three channels. A central channel. Different traditions imagine that it runs from different places to different places. Some say from the crown of the head to the bottom of the breastbone. Many texts say that. And then some say from the top of the head to the point just below the navel. And some say from the top of the head to the pelvic floor. And some say from a point above the crown of the head to a point just below the pelvic floor. But as long as you're imagining a central channel, and then two channels either side sort of wrapping around it, and you can imagine that as they wrap around it, it brings more energy and attention into that central channel. Imagining ourselves in the central channel is having a visceral or a ritual correlate for the idea of being centered in the middle, non-dual, acting from the heart. Okay, come on up. Back to hands and knees. Wag your tail. You can let it move a little if you want. Breathing easy, jaw soft. Now we're going to take one knee. Let's say the knee furthest away from me, directly behind its own wrist, and that's where it's going to stay. The foot on that leg is going to move across the body diagonally,
You might need to stretch the other leg back to get it out of the way, and we're going to stretch it back anyway. So gradually or slowly stretching back. Your leg is diagonally positioned across the body. Some people find putting a block under the bum is really helpful, so you can if you want. A lot of people find it's immediately better if they come down to their elbows, so you can if you want. And many people find that if they take a deep breath or two or three or four, it's helpful. Very, very, very helpful, in fact. And some people find that if they wiggle, side to side, that's helpful. Some people feel that if they lift up, that's helpful. Right? So all of these are options you can take. But breathe into it. That's your bottom line. Massage it into the hip, into the bum. If your breath goes shallow, it means you've got caught in an experience of things being independent. Like you get caught on a particular thought or a particular mode of being that is like a habit, a way of being that you that limits you in some way, like always being the funny one, or always being the serious one, or always being the sensible one, or always being, whatever, the goofy one. Those are habits. Okay, if you're down on the forearms, come up. If you're up, come down a little way. Tuck your back toes under, bring your back knee forwards. Come back to hands and knees and catch your breath. Wiggle if you wanna. Keep loose, check in with the breath. There's no way of knowing whether you're experiencing interdependence other than the breath, but luckily the breath is always present in an alive human being. So you can always tell if there's flow, which is an indicator that we're not getting caught up in this more than that. You can always tell that there's flow because the breath flows. So the physical movements you're taking should conduce to the breath being open. When you're ready, the other knee comes forwards. Go ahead. Bring it forward, same place, but the other wrist. The foot moves diagonally across the body and you stretch back in your own time. And some people feel that they're immediately more comfortable to come down to the elbows. And for most people, I would say, feel like, oh, that's a bit better. And some people feel they want to lift up the head and chest. There are several poses called Kapotasana. These are a sort of a version of Kapotasana called Ekapada Raja Kapotasana. And Kapota means pigeon. It also means grey in Sanskrit, for obvious reasons. Pigeons are grey. So if you want to say the colour grey, you have to say pigeon in Sanskrit. Right? But the point is, these poses do head towards a pigeon-like posture. And that is only done when the body is upright, obviously. So that's just a note, really. But what we really want is breath to flow. That's what we all need and want here and now, the breath to flow. And to get that to happen, the body might need to move in certain ways that conduce to the breath flowing. Okay, if you're up, come down. If you're down, come up a little so that you can tuck your back toes under, bring your back knee forwards, come back to hands and knees and just move the pelvis left and right. Breathe easy. Just loosen up the pelvis. Breathe easy. From there, we're going to pop back into our downward facing dog pose. which in an earlier text, the Hathabhyasa Parati, an earlier text is not called dog pose, but called elephant pose, right? Which I think is kind of cool. We know it makes sense. We've seen dogs stretching like this, so yeah, sure, that makes sense. But traditionally, so I'm sorry to say, and I don't agree with this, of course, but traditionally in some particularly Brahmanistic forms of Indian philosophy, dogs are not seen like we see them as they're seen as impure. So that's sad, and I don't agree with it. I think they're cute and lovely. But it does mean that it's very unlikely that people would have called this pose dog pose, as a dog is inauspicious. But an elephant, on the other hand, super auspicious. Now, what we can see why it's dog, but what would make it elephant? If you've ever seen an elephant walking, you'll see how sensitively they place how carefully they place their beautiful feet with their enormous toenails. So similarly, your feet are your hands and feet. Place and replace them like an elephant. Huh? Right? So feel, move around to help yourself feel more. In ancient India, if someone said to someone else, you walk like an elephant, it would be an enormous compliment. Huh? Not an insult, but an enormous compliment. Okay, well done. Come down to hands and knees. Reach for the far end of your mat. Take hold of it. Good job. It's going well. Crawl backwards, pulling the end of your mat with you. And ladies and gentlemen, you have folded a yoga mat in half. Congratulations. Turn it around 90 degrees, like that. Turn it around 90 degrees once you've folded it in half. And then make sure you're not in straight lines in the room. At home, you can be as you like, but in the room, don't be in straight lines. Be in staggered lines. Make the lines staggered so that you're not directly behind someone or directly in front of someone. That's it. That's good. Then come to your hands and knees. And once you're on your hands and knees, we're going to take the right leg forwards and all the way around the left leg. So I'll do it from the side so you can see another image of it, but you're doing that the way you are. So right leg all the way around the left leg. Make sure your knees are forwards on the mat, by the way, I should say. And bring your feet towards each other. Now, I use a sort of defunct windscreen wiper blade kind of thing. Now, I've been fortunate enough, in inverted commas, fortunate enough to have a lot of defunct cars in my life. And I think some of you will empathize. So I've had some cars with rubbish windscreen wiper blades. That's what you've got here. You're working your back leg around, your front leg around rather, but using movements that are like a windscreen wiper blade, but not as rhythmic. Okay. Now that's enough for most of us, but some of you might feel you can go back a little and you start to feel a little pressure in the calf muscle of the top leg, which is good. And that might be enough. You're like, oh yeah, I feel it in the calf muscle. That's not going any further. That's fine. Or some people do go a little more. Some people feel even okay to sit up. Now, by okay, I don't mean comfortable or happy necessarily. What I mean is they feel okay. The hands, if you did sit up, you don't have to, remember, but if you did sit up, some people feel that they don't even need to use their hands on the floor. They feel like, oh God, I think I can balance. But if you can't, you can use a block between the heels and buttocks or a folded blanket. You can also use blocks to support yourself for your hands. Those are people, and they're in the minority, of course, but those people that do feel that they've got their balance and they're sitting upright could bring their hands to prayer, or even clasping one hand, as we did earlier with the belt. Whichever leg is on top, the opposite arm would be the top arm if you were doing that clasping. And they would reach each other in that manner. Good job, really good job. Remember, a jug fills drip by drip. A yogin understands that. They take lots of very small movements over a long period of time and make great progress that way.
Release when you're ready, and I think you're ready now. And come back to hands and knees. Don't normally meet many people going, oh, can't I stay a bit longer? It's not very common. Take a breath, wag your tail, you know, like you're sort of happy to be out of that pose. So take your legs apart again and just like, you know, like a happy dog reunited with its friend. I won't call them owner, but friend, after they've come back out of the supermarket. Okay, other leg round. And similarly, working your feet towards each other through a series of increments that work the cells almost individually around in a way that feels holistic. That is to say that we're not just superimposing this on the body, but we're getting every part of the body over time to agree. Again, you might come to fingertips like this and that'd be more than enough. One or two people might be able to sit up. The crushing of the calf is desirable. Other crushings, no, don't crush other things. Breathing through your nose. Those that feel they've got their balance, it's not, you know, what makes you a great yogin is that you get more out of less. Not that you keep pushing the edge, but you get more out of less. In terms of you've got enough sensation to breathe into and move into this direct experience of interdependence. That's what makes you a great yogin. Not whether or not you're able to keep up with the Joneses, as it were. Those who feel okay sitting up could have their hands in prayer or clasping, which remember is opposite arm to the top leg. No, as you were was good, actually. The other one. Yeah, that's it. Again, that's a central channel thing, having opposites, because it wraps the two channels, Ida Pingala, around the central channel and points to us to an experience of centeredness. Soft eyes, deep breath. Okay. Coming out of the pose. You don't need to be told twice, do you? Nice and easy. Now we're going to sit in a pose that is suitable for most, but maybe not for everyone. It's called Siddhasana. For those that it's comfortable for, we're going to sit on one of these bricks. There's only one sensible way to sit on one of these bricks, and that is with it flat down like this. I did say that once to a class of people, and one of the Zoomers turned it that way as if to test it out and tried to sit on it, and they realized, yes, I was right. There's only one sensible way to sit on it. I won't name names, but that was Jeremy Arnold. Drawn out and back. Lovely, Jeremy. He's making a retreat centre in Portugal that we're all going to go to when he's finished it. Anyway, so this is Siddhasana. It's a kind of cross-legged, but the heels are lined up with each other and the midline of the body. If it's not comfortable, you can sit in any comfortable position. You can use things like blocks under your knees. You can use a blanket under your shins. Make it comfortable for yourself. As long as you can sit upright and tall. So lift your chest up, lift your ribs up. Breathe through your nose, drop your shoulder blades. Elevate the spine. Move left and right to look for height and space in the central channel. Move left and right to look for height and space in the central channel. Some of the Hatha Yoga texts tell us that one of the practices is to concentrate on the space in the central channel, the vacuity, the space. So we imagine a channel that's like a water plant. And water plants, like reeds, have channels in them. They're hollow in the middle. Some texts even tell us to imagine the central channel like a lotus stalk, and the lotus flower itself is the head, our own head, or the crown of the head. So imagine your central channel is like a lotus stalk, and on the crown of the head is the lotus flower. And because the channel is open, because we're relaxed, because we're breathing, because we're free to move, then the flower opens. And our breath opens. Now, up through this central channel, we're going to send a bija mantra. So bija just means seed. So bija mantras are energies contained within a small sound, right? Big energy in a small sound, a bija. And the energy we're going to send up is the bija mantra that I know you know, Om. And what we do is we start at the pelvic floor when we chant it in a minute. We start at the pelvic floor and we imagine that we're pushing this mantra up through the channel, all the way up through. And when it reaches the sinus area, we make the sound more nasal. Now, if somebody were talking nasally, they'd sound nerdy. Like, you know, if I were talking nasally, I'd be talking through my nose. I'd sound nerdy. So it's that kind of. We make a nasal sound when we say the word bank. If you go and put your money in the bank, you don't say bang, you say bank. It's nasal. If you say mother, it's a nasal sound. Mother, it's in the nose. And so on. If you're French and you say good, you say bon. It's nasal. So when it gets to the nose, you make it very nasal, as nasal as you can, and you push it up through the crown of your head. So we're going to do 3 of these Om. We start at the pelvic floor. We're pushing it. Imagine we're pushing it up through this central channel. Any blockages get cleared through the process. And when it gets to the nasal area, you make it as nasal as possible. So it pushes through these final blockages between the forehead center and the crown of the head, which start with the Nirodhika, the great blocker, which is just above the eyebrow ridge. Okay, so we've got the process, pushing energy up through the mantra, through the central channel. 3 times together. Take a deep breath in. Inhale. Right up through the crown of the head. Let's do it again. Deep breath when you're ready. Last one. Extra deep breath for this last one. Out of the crown of the head and then deep breath. So feel the lower end of the central channel, feel the upper end, feel the connection between them. Let it be a living, alive, dance-like connection. There's dance, there's movement. So instead of thinking a lot, which is normal, a normal habit, recognize thinking, be kind and spacious. And leave thinking alone. Because thinking is dualistic. It's one channel or the other. Thinking does things like, it's good, it's bad. It's successful, it failed. They're kind or they're unkind. It makes goodies and baddies, right and wrong, and very sadly, us and them. But in the middle, there's freedom, there's potential, there's creative potential, there's unlimited potential. And it is non-binary, the middle. It is the middle. So tuning in on that central channel as a visceral experience between thoughts, between breaths. Now we're going to do one more little practice, only one time, but I should add a warning. So you might want to avoid this if you're someone who doesn't want to feel relaxed at the end of this class. You might think, nope, not for me. I'm off for a nice manic day, thank you. Right? So if you don't want to feel very relaxed because it's very effective, this practice, don't do it. It's called Brahmari. And we take it with what's called Shanmukhi Mudra, optionally. But this is Shanmukhi Mudra. Don't do it, because if you do it, you won't see any of it. And if you carry it on, you won't hear any of it. So you close the eyes, you close the tragus, which is the cartilaginous flap across the ear. You take a deep breath in and out without obstructing the nostrils. That's just to clear the airways like this. And then you partially close your nostrils for the next 3 breath rounds, an inhale and an exhale. The nostrils stay partially closed for each inhale and exhale, the next inhale and exhale, next 3 of them. The only difference between the inhale and exhale is the exhale is hummed. Like that until you finish the breath. It's called Brahmari, which means the sound of a female bumblebee. So when you're ready, close your eyes with the fingers, close your tragus, the cartilaginous flap with your thumbs. Take a deep breath through open nostrils in and out. Partially closed nostrils and humming the exhales for 3 rounds. When you finish the last round, release the hands. Don't say I didn't warn you. It's very relaxing. It leads us nicely to melting down, to laying down on our backs, which we'll take a little time to do carefully. We're going to lay flat on our backs. Make sure you're warm. Some of you are really reaching for jumpers. Probably a good, well, open your mat up, and probably a good idea to one person to turn one way and the person next to them to turn the other way, so that you have room for your arms to stretch out. Palms facing up. Palms facing up. Hopefully some of you invested in your hot sock future. Now is the time to get your investment back and to realize what a wise investment. And if you're thinking, God, I wish I'd invested in a hot sock future, there's always next week. Next week could be your hot sock week. When you lay yourself down for what we call Shavasana, which means corpse pose, sorry. When you lay yourself down for corpse pose, make sure you're symmetrical and spacious. Posture symmetrical and spacious. And that you're warm, and that your head doesn't tip back. Often a head support is useful. Shoulder blades are scooted under. Oh, look at that. That's proper mum love. Oh. You are beautiful. Have your hands off the yoga mat so you've got a generous position for your arms. One of the Hatha Yoga texts that teaches us this pose simply describes it like this. Find a place where you can be on your own. A place where you don't have to be anybody in particular. Could be a clearing in a woodland. It could be a meadow by the ocean. Or it could be the shrine room of the Buddhist Centre in Brighton. It's a place where you don't have to be anybody. And it says, lay on your back as if you were dead. And actually, although that sounds like, oh, dead, what? No, it's actually beautiful. Like, because you're laying down everything, you know, the things you know, got to do. Dead people don't have to do anything, do they? Wonderful. So lay down as if you were dead. And it says, with limbs completely loose. With limbs completely loose. It tells us that the purpose of the practice, using the Sanskrit word laya, is dissolution. Laya is L-A-Y-A. Dissolution, to dissolve, to melt. The word laya can even mean camouflage, to merge completely. And it tells us that we can use any sensation we find in the body and follow it like a trail of breadcrumbs by opening up to a sensation like a tingling sensation in the big toe of your right foot. You open up to the sensation and it leads you back to the field that underpins all experiences, the interdependent field. Allow a little movement into the body as if you were feeling it for the first time. It is new and interesting. Perhaps you'll move your fingers. Perhaps you'll move your toes. Perhaps there'll be little organic and natural stretches. When you've taken a few organic and natural stretches, Bend your knees and place the soles of the feet onto the floor. Once you've placed the feet onto the floor, scoot the buttocks under. And take a deep breath, letting the lower back release entirely. Letting the lower back release entirely. Then, when you feel ready, roll onto your side facing away from the shrine side of the room. Draw your knees up, tummy soft. When you feel ready, roll again and face towards the shrine side of the room. Knees drawn up, tummy soft. Everything soft. Start letting a bit of light and color filter gently into your eyes. You might rub your eyes or run a hand across your hair or stretch out an arm or a leg. Gradually coming round in this natural way. When you feel ready to come up, then bring yourself up nice and easy from the side. And we're faced towards that lovely painting of the Buddha. And I'll say a little sentence. In Sanskrit, if you agree with something, what you do is you say, I agree. And you do that by saying, Om. So here's the sentence. If you agree with it at the end when I say Om, which will indicate my agreement, you can also say Om if you want. May the merit gained in our acting in this way go to the alleviation of the suffering of absolutely all beings. Om. Thanks, gang. Love and peace and stuff. Try and be good. Thanks for coming. I look forward to seeing you soon. Next weekend, I'm running on Sunday. There's an extended workshop for 2.5 hours. That's the 5th of February here in this very shrine room. And it's about energetic realignment. So that means you'll be coming round for the whole time, adjusting, saying, you need a block there, go wider there. Direct adjustments for everybody. So that's next Sunday. If you're interested in that, you can text me about it to book. It's booking through me. And have a look on the Vajrasati website at upcoming workshops and holidays. They're all there listed. If you want to come on a holiday with me, not just you and me, although that would be lovely. Maybe we could do that as well. But a yoga holiday, then you can have a look there. Thanks, gang. Lots of love. Thanks so much. Loads of love. Thanks for coming. Ciao for now.